Welcome, everyone, to the Sports Illustrated Media Podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Traina. Thanks for listening. Excellent podcast this week with Joe Buck from Fox Sports. Joe gets into calling the Field of Dreams game between the Yankees and White Sox. Week before that, he had Cowboys and Steelers in the NFL Hall of Fame game. Hosted Jeopardy last week. A lot of things to cover with Joe Buck, and he was great. And then following Joe Buck, we have our weekly Train of Thought segment with Sal Licata, where we talk about the new NFL taunting rule, whether owners should be tweeting, and the NBA versus NFL on Christmas Day. So those topics in the Train of Thoughts after we hear from Joe Buck. Before we get to Joe, very quickly, if you missed it last week, we had Chris Mad Dog Russo from SiriusXM and Roman Reigns, WWE champion, Universal champion, on the podcast. So check that out. 2 weeks ago, Iron Eagle. 3 weeks ago, Brian Curtis from The Ringer. If you missed any of those podcasts, go into the archives. Give them a listen. Subscribe to the SI Media Podcast. And if you can rate and review, that helps too. All right. Here we go with this week's show. Joe Buck coming up right now on the SI Media Podcast. All right. Joining me now, a man a lot of you have heard over the past 2 Thursdays based on ratings. He is the voice of Fox Sports and a Hall of Famer now, Joe Buck. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know that. I'm not going to refer to myself as a Hall of Famer any more than I refer to myself as a doctor. I got an honorary doctorate one time from St. Louis University, and I don't go by doc. So I'm just going to leave the whole Hall of Fame thing for another lifetime. Maybe I'll be better athletically, and I'll make it in as a player in my next life. But as I stand here now, I'm a guy who got an award from the Hall of Fame.
Listen, take it.
Oh, I took it. Yeah, I took it. I screwed up my speech, Jimmy. I had 2 minutes. I spoke during the commercial break. I felt rushed. I was over time, and I had not yet thanked anybody in my family. And I looked up, and the clock is flashing, so I know that ESPN and or NFL Network's coming back from break. And I rushed through the family thing, and I gave the beginning part of what I was going to say about my wife, but I didn't get to the end part about what I was going to say about my wife, who was the only one that bothered to show up for me, by the way. And, my name just became mud for the rest of it. It put such a bad taste in my mouth, about the Hall of Fame. So I'm still trying to dig my way out of that hole.
Where do we stand on digging your way out of the hole?
I can see daylight.
Okay.
I can see daylight. I can feel air, but I'm still dirty.
Yeah, it's gonna slow process. Trust the process on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna trust the process. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. I'm trying to take it one day at a time. I'm trying to help the team any way I can.
So as I mentioned, you've had a couple of nice Thursdays here back to back. It started with Cowboys, Steelers, Hall of Fame game, and then the Field of Dreams smash success last week. It's funny. I know you're the play-by-play man for Fox. You have a job to do. You're not going to sit there and pour over numbers and ratings. But the Field of Dreams game, highest rated regular season MLB game since 2005, which is very impressive, 5.9 million viewers. And I don't know, maybe I don't know what it is about me, but when I saw that number, I knew the number would be big. I don't want to always bring it back to the NFL, but the fact that 7.3 million people watched a completely fake game is beyond astonishing to me.
Yeah, I think it speaks more in this day and age to the power of the NFL than it does to, what's wrong with Major League Baseball. I think baseball, I think Fox, I think everybody involved, the state of Iowa, Dyersville, every stalk and ear of corn that was there was proud of that whole experience with the Field of Dreams game. And then what the number was, you can't control, but people, I've had more comments on that in the week since than anything I've done in a long, long time. So whatever the number was, I'm not calling BS on it, but I feel like everybody I know in my life, in fact, people I don't know, want to come up to me and tell me how cool that was. And then on top of it, how great of a game it was. So it tells me they stuck around for the end of it.
When was the first moment for you that you realized this was something special? Was it before the game, during the game, introductions? When did you first realize, oh, we've got something here that's even cooler than I imagined?
A plus B. It was A, the night before the game, getting there to go through the rehearsal of what Kevin Costner wanted to do, and seeing the truck compound, which means something to you, doesn't mean much to the average listener, but it had as much equipment in the truck compound as any U.S. Open I ever did, which had at least 3 to 4 times more equipment in it than any Super Bowl I've ever done. So it was that big.
Wow.
It was, I said to one of the guys, "Is Fox paying for all this?" I mean, I don't know what the outlay was for it, but it was a big, big production that had a lot of moving parts to it. And then when I walked out with Kevin Costner, and I guess I'm name dropping, but it's fitting for the night before the game, which was Wednesday, and I walked through the scaffolding and the bleachers and whatever that they had constructed for behind the home plate and first and third base areas, and walked out onto that field and saw what it looked like, I was stunned at how beautiful it was. The sun was starting to set. It was cooling off. And you just hoped that the weather would hold up. And if it did, you knew it was going to be special. I did an interview with a Chicago radio station on my way in. And I said, I'm not one to really hype this kind of stuff or, set us up for failure. But when this comes on your TV, it's going to be different than anything you've ever seen other than in a movie theater. And it was just that. I mean, it was pretty breathtaking to see the extent to which they paid tribute to that movie and how excited the players were and these two teams were to even be there.
Now, fill me in here, because you mentioned it a little while ago about when you saw Costner's involvement. Did he dictate a lot of what we ended up seeing in that introduction on
Thankfully,
Thursday night?
yeah. And I would say thankfully. I mean, I don't know what the reaction was to that. I know it was long, but I think that it was proper because the way we can cut around and show different things, it was everybody else's first taste of what was going on in Iowa for this game. And I talked to him maybe 2 weeks out, a week and a half out before we all got to Iowa. He trusted me to kind of be his in-between between him and MLB and him and Fox, because people like Costner or whoever shows up, a star, and everybody's pulling at him. And he said, I don't want to throw out the first pitch. I think that's too trite. I want to make this feel cinematic. And I said, well, everybody's piggybacking off your movie. Do what you want. And if they don't like it, then don't show up. But, this should be your call. And so he was very particular the way he wanted it done and was confiding in me to try to help him get it done. Fox was on board, and then getting MLB on board was pretty easy. And that what you saw was exactly what Kevin Costner wanted to do. And when I saw him in the booth, when he came up in the, whatever that was, the fourth inning or so, and I said, well, what'd you think? I mean, this was before we came on from the break, and he said, I feel like I screwed up the speech because everything was going so fast, and I was, obviously nerves kick in, and he's like, I don't even remember what I said. I said, well, it didn't feel like that. I saw your rehearsal. It was a little bit different, but you pretty much got everything you wanted out. I wouldn't think about it twice because I thought it was great. So even he walked away from that whole experience really happy.
And tell me about the crowd there, because I think you had mentioned early on, maybe in the first or second inning, it was quiet. Well, they just take it. I mean, you have two, a team from New York and Chicago, and you plunk them in Iowa. Right. Or were they mesmerized by what was going on? What was? Give me the crowd, like a little bit about the crowd that was there.
It just was unique. I think it was so different that it took people a while to get into the fact that they were watching a big league game. I think in the beginning, it felt like you were, as I said on the air, it felt like it was church, and you were there, and you didn't want to be too loud, and you didn't want to. As far as the fan, it's hard for me to speak for the fan, but I know even from where I was sitting, it was like, I don't really want to trample all over this, but I feel like I've got to talk because the crowd's not making a whole lot of noise. And then as the game went, I felt like the crowd noise built toward the end, and the game started locally at roughly 6:15. So, it wasn't that late by the time the game ended, and people weren't worn out. So I think they were a little gassed at the beginning after taking it all in.
Right.
And then once the game started, it was like, okay, everybody just settled down for a second. And then it was, okay, now we're watching a pretty damn good game. And they came back in to where at the end, it felt 8,000 fans felt like 28,000 to me.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I'm a Yankee fan, so there's some issues there for me at the way it ended. But everyone loved it. Good night. I'm glad baseball had a good night because they get beat up pretty good, and rightfully so in a lot of cases. But that was all. When everyone likes something, it's more shocking than anything.
It's I agree with that 100%. I mean, you think about where we've come, and I know all the conversations that have happened in the background of, and maybe it's coming off these all-star games that are now no longer, this time it counts, where it's basically become an exhibition that there really are no rules, and they will let us, as long as the player's willing to do it. MLB has gone, fine, have at it, do what you want to do. And I'm interviewing people from the booth, and we're talking to guys while they're in the batter's box, and if any pitcher would let me talk or us talk to them while they're on the mound, MLB's fine with it, and the Players Association's fine with it. So now we're kind of coming off that in the middle of July, and even though this game was real, we're talking to Liam Hendricks in the bullpen in the 6th inning, and we're it had that exhibition feel with just the open door nature of it. A microphone on Luke Voigt, a microphone on Tim Anderson, and it had almost like spring training and the All-Star game. If spring training and the All-Star game had a baby, that's right. What we broadcast from Iowa.
I'm sure there are logistics with the players and even production and stuff like that, but to me, baseball has such a simple thing they can do to generate so much interest, and that's just basically mic up every player for every game. But because whenever anyone sees anything from a player that's mic'd up, it's pretty. Fans don't know what goes on the field. I mean, just the conversations at first base. There was a clip. I don't know if you saw it. It's probably like 3 or 4 years ago that went beyond viral of Terry Collins going nuts with an umpire, where that quote about our asses in the jackpot, and if you let people hear if you let fans hear anything, I think that would generate so much interest. I get why, maybe some players don't want everything mic'd and this and the same thing, but anytime anyone's mic'd up, it seems to be a huge hit. I don't know why baseball doesn't do it more.
Yeah, I think everybody has gone, especially after the Astros sign stealing thing and the trash can stuff. Everybody has gone back into the paranoia bin, and it's almost NFL-esque the way these. You just watch. I mean, you watch the pitchers and the catchers going through, looking at a card in the hat and holding up 2 fingers. And now we're going to go through the second set of signs, and we're changing it up because they can't visit on the mound like they used to after every pitch. So now they have to do it in different ways. So everybody's a bit paranoid anytime you kind of break that seal and you go inside their world. But as long as they know that they can trust you, and stuff, a lot of the stuff is tape delayed, or it's even taped in the 2nd inning and played back in the 8th inning, and MLB's listening to it, a rep from the PA's listening to it, and nobody's going to get embarrassed by it. It requires a leap of faith, but I'm with you. I think anytime you take fans inside the ropes, then I think they take away a greater appreciation for A, how fast and how hard this game is, and B, how it's filled with a lot of really interesting people that are more than just things running around. They're actual human beings, and I think that's good.
Right, exactly. We'll circle back to NFL in a sec, but in the middle of the Field of Dreams, you had your Jeopardy week. First of all, before we get into the show, the James Holzhauer tweet, what was your reaction to that?
He had 2 tweets that I saw. One, he had the rankings of hosts, and it was Aaron Rodgers 1, me 2, and Ken Jennings.
So was
16.
that a makeup for his first tweet where he said something
idea.
about?
I wouldn't know James Holzhauer if he was sitting here in my room. I don't know much about him, except I know about his success on the show, but I don't know what kind of a guy he is. So I have no idea. I couldn't care less. I mean, I'm to the point now where I am so over, reacting to Twitter.
Yeah.
That I just...
Well, but that's a little bit different than Twitter since he was on the show, as a champion. It's not, Joe Smith 6969 saying, Joe Buck sucks. It's a little bit, So I'll pull the curtain back here a little and tell you my experience with it. I had written about the reaction to you hosting Jeopardy. It was all over the map. It was like good, bad. It was, and there was a lot of funny stuff about it. So that's what I tried to focus on. And obviously there was the Holzhauer tweet. So in my original column that day, I had called the tweet classless and something else, mean and classless is what I think I called it. And one of my editors said, he's probably joking. That's his sense of humor.
That's what my sister said, but I don't know what that means. I don't know. So for me to go through Twitter and start searching for a deeper meaning, I don't know that there's always one there. And right. I think in this case, what he tweeted, and I could be wrong, is that, I don't like this guy doing sports, so if Jeopardy's I think that was the tweet, if Jeopardy's making these people quit their day job, so to speak, I hope he gets the job, because he doesn't want, I don't know who he roots for, I don't know where he's from, I don't know what his favorite team is, I have no idea. So that's how I took it, and kind of did a little eye roll and moved on to the next 3-year-old's diaper that I had to change. So, that kind of stuff is becoming less relevant in my life, and I think that's a good thing. It is. But I used to say it and not really mean it. Now I feel like I can say it and pretty much mean it. Like then go ahead, you step up and host Jeopardy, or anybody that has a rip on me hosting Jeopardy, which the 95% of the feedback I've gotten has been like, oh my God, that was so funny and fun and natural and you should be doing it and whatever. You just kind of, I don't know. I don't really seek other people's nod anymore. Yeah.
Well, I only ask because, like I said, that's not just, a random Twitter user, and that's his quote did get picked up by like every news outlet. So that's why, I thought maybe to be honest, in my head, when I had it that I would ask you that question, I thought maybe you would say, oh, he reached out to me, text, DM, he said he was kidding. Or, that's what I was, because if he just put it out there like that and then never really clarified it, to me, it seems like a classless tweet, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. And, Matt Amodio has been the opposite of that. So and he told me when I was there, he's like, oh my God, it seems to be coming pretty easy for you. Because he saw 4 hosts and I was the 4th and final guest host that he had to deal with. And I would imagine, even though I don't think these contestants really hang on any words, let alone every word of the host and reading the actual clue, you could still really screw somebody up if you were not any good at hosting the show. So to get compliments from him, who stood there with me and had gone through this process with guest hosts, to get his compliment, I mean, I guess I'm spitting in the face of everything I said, but it meant a lot to me that somebody who was there, as opposed to somebody that's shooting off from the hillside, that means more to me than the kind of the typical Twitter stuff.
Scale of 1 to 100. Give me how difficult was hosting that for a week?
Well, I would be a complete jerk if I said it was easy. It was not easy, but Mike Richards and that whole crew made it so much easier than it otherwise would have been. And they were so many guests. I was the last guest host they had. So they had seen they'd seen the entire graph of who had come and who was a quick study and who needed a little bit more hand holding. I don't know it was almost like attorney-client privilege when I was there. They wouldn't talk about any of the other hosts. They wouldn't tell me, oh, this guy really struggled, this girl really struggled, this girl was great, this guy. None of that. That was not.
Tell me one thing real quick. When did you tape? What month did you tape those shows?
I think it was May.
May,
so
okay.
It was a long time ago. So
right, that's why I wanted to ask that, yeah.
So, Mike basically wrote a guide of hosting Jeopardy for dummies, for lack of a better description. And it was every pitfall that you could find. It was the rules of the game, the way they go into breaks. It was almost like a USGA handbook. These are not answers, they're responses. These are not questions, they're clues. These are not bets, they're wagers. These are not... So by the time you kind of digest all that, it makes you a little gun-shy to talk, which is how it was at the beginning of the USGA stuff. It's not a tee box, it's a teeing ground. It's not a sand trap, it's a bunker. It's not the driving range, it's the practice tee. So you have to kind of adopt the language that they've always used because their viewers really want to feel as comfortable as they can with somebody else standing up there. So they made it about as comfortable as it could be. And after getting out there and that initial walkout of kind of welcoming everybody to that particular episode of Jeopardy and transitioning into the first round, the opening round of Jeopardy, once you get past that, it really felt comfortable. So I can't say that I felt ever out of place. I can say that having done it in May and then having that much time where I hadn't seen it or really thought about it much and have it pop up on my TV in August was great because I was watching it like almost a fresh set of eyes and a fresh viewer that didn't have any preconceived notions. And I really liked what I saw. So I'm glad. I'm thrilled with the way it came out.
So the 5 episodes, did you tape those all in one day or was it over 2 or 3 days? How many?
In one day,
days?
yeah. You go there. I went there for the weekend, mainly to get rest, and then showed up on Monday, ran through the practicing that they made all the guest hosts do, and then got there at 8:30 on Tuesday and walked out of there at 6:30.
Now, I assume, unlike some of the other guest hosts, you didn't go in there looking for the job. I mean, you seem to have your hands full as it is.
Yeah.
Or were you thinking like, oh, this is a tryout?
That's a good question. I don't think I ever thought, oh my God, I've got to nail this so that they want me to host Jeopardy, which is a really freeing feeling. And that's what I think allowed me to do it the way I wanted to do it. So when Mike Richards, 2 weeks before these shows aired, texted me and said, I just got finished editing your episodes. Man, you were really funny when you were out there. I thought, okay, that's the best compliment I can get because that's how I went into it. I didn't want to be stiff. I didn't want to be a robot. I wanted to be a little looser and have some fun with it. Had I been looking for the job, like, man, I got to make rent this month or whatever, and Fox said, hey, after this next game, you're fired, then yeah, I would have been a much tighter. So I don't think I ever really went there mentally because when I met with Mike Richards, I have to say, at the end of last year, and I was one of the first people he met with, I walked out of there like, I'm pretty sure he wants and is going to get the job. And if not him, then it's going to be Ken Jennings. And after that, I don't know. And that was just my gut reaction because I had no idea. I didn't know then. I really don't know now what the process was to select. But I just got the sense that he really wanted to do it. And I only have great things to say about Mike because of how great he was to me and made it understandable for me to get through and do 5 shows.
Well, let's get to the NFL now. What you have? I assume you have Green Bay, New Orleans, week 1? 4:25 on Fox.
Yes.
We're 3 weeks away, thank God. 20th year with Troy?
20th year, which is mind-blowing.
Unbelievable.
It is. It really is. And in today's world, in today's media world, and then just personality-wise, I can say that he and I have never had that moment where it's like, oh, is he pissed off at me? Or, we don't want to see each other because we're kind of on each other's nerves, or I said something that he took the wrong way or vice versa. So to do that for 20 years is as big of an accomplishment kind of the off-air stuff is as impressive to me as just being together on air for 20 years.
And 20 years later, I feel like you guys are as good as ever. And I feel like Troy's always improved. And I think when people... does it come across... Like, I feel like when it's Sunday at 4:25 and NFL fans hear your voice and Troy's voice, it feels like, all right, this is the big time. This is why we watch football. Let's go.
Which is the only thing I think you can hope for, even with the Twitter stuff and you hate my team and you suck and whatever, but at least they know that the sound means that it's a game that people are going to be talking about theoretically the next day. And that's the ultimate, that for people my age was Madden and Summerall in the NFL, and for baseball, and the game of the week was Vince Scully and Joe Garagiola. And you knew when you heard those voices that this was the game. And so when people say that to me, the one thing we always get separately and collectively it really sounds like you two like one another. And
oh yeah,
it's like,
sure.
Yeah, we do. And Aaron too. And now Tom Rinaldi's joined the group and Christina Pink. I don't feel like there's the typical TV, you're hugging somebody to feel the soft spot on their back to stick the knife in. That's typically how this business works.
Right. Troy, I have to say, one of the most surprising things I've learned recently about Troy Aikman is Troy is a big Instagram user. Troy is a big
more so
Instagram.
now than let's say a year ago, and
will actually comment on my posts, which it's like, wait a second, you're a Hall of Fame Super Bowl quarterback, I'm a nothing, and you're commenting on it. It's very bizarre that it's like, but Troy likes Instagram.
Yeah, I think he does. I use Instagram for kind of toilet time, or if I'm in a car, or if I'm
don't say in a car. People will get mad. They'll think you're scrolling while you're driving. So make
absolutely,
it clear.
And typing and taking video and no, when I do ride in cars too.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, that's exactly what I was talking, because I made that pledge to Oprah and Jordan Spieth that I would not do that. So all
right, good.
It's none of that. And I do feel like I go on there, especially in the off season when I'm not talking with Troy a lot, to kind of catch up on his life, which is crazy to me. I also find that with my girls, my daughters who are 25 and 22, there are times now, because they're old enough, where I see that I'm like, oh my God, Trudy's in Arizona. And, it's like, well, I should know that.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I paid for that ticket. I should know that she's in Arizona, or, oh man, she's back at school. School started.
So funny. It's so funny you said that, because I have an 11-year-old niece who posted a video on TikTok this week, and her caption said, I was doing this at 1 a.m. And I texted her, I said, no, you're not supposed to be up that late, and you're not supposed to be posting that you're up that. So, you get that with all ages, Joe. All ages.
Yeah. And, that stuff, thankfully, my girls got that message early. And I think that was one of the benefits of growing up in a smallish town like St. Louis, like I did, and knowing that eyeballs were on you because, I had my dad, and they, would trail around after me, and we'd be in a restaurant. If we walked in certain restaurants, everybody would know that my dad was there. And so I always kind of felt eyes on me. And then when the whole social media thing came up, I'm like, you got to be careful, because those same eyes and then beyond that, across the country and around the world, theoretically, they're on you. So you have to be smart about it and not posting something at 1 o'clock in the morning at 11 years old. That was forbidden in the house.
Yeah. As the lead play-by-play man for Fox on the NFL, what are your feelings? Do you not care with how there's really no more AFC, CBS, NFC, Fox? I mean, it's there, but there's so much flex, cross-flex, and it seems like it's just going to get more and more where there's no AFC on CBS, NFC on Fox. Do you care about that at all?
I don't know how the new contract is written. I honestly don't. I don't know if for the next big deal they signed, which they got done last year, if that means that it's going to be the old rules or if it's just going to be even more and more flex. I don't care. I mean, I think Thursdays changed all that for me, doing Thursday Night Football, because there was a decade where I didn't do a Cincinnati game or a Miami game or a Raider game or a Browns game or whatever it was, Jacksonville game. Now with Thursday night, not only is there cross flexing with the networks, but we're all over the place anyway. So I've already done a lot of the work in a lot of cases where, I can just update stuff that I did earlier in the year. So it doesn't matter to me. I don't care who we're calling. And the beauty of doing the top game at Fox is whatever teams are there, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a good matchup going in, or at least look like a good matchup when the schedule is put together. So that doesn't bother me. And I kind of like seeing new teams and talking about different things. Back in the day, Troy Aikman became really good friends with Summerall, John Madden, their producer, Bob Stenner, their director, Sandy Grossman, because they were in production meetings every week. There's not that much new material that you can mine from these guys if you're doing them week after week after week. So, we have a lot of Cowboys again. We have a lot of Packers again. Some Seahawks in there, Rams. It's still heavy.
What about
NFC.
The Bucs?
And the Bucs with Brady.
Yeah.
So, you're going to mix in other teams that are playing those teams. But for the most part, at least half the work is just being updated because it's another Cowboy game or another Bucs game or another Packer game. So it's pretty much the same for us.
Do you know yet? I mean, we're still 3 weeks away, like I said, from the season. Do you know yet what your rules are going to be as related to the COVID in terms of, like, last year you guys didn't do the meetings or you did them on Zoom, and I know you weren't really with the players and coaches that much, and I don't know.
I think it's going to be the same. I think it'll be the same. I think on game day we're going to be allowed to go down. If we're going to work games, I don't know how it is at the other networks. I assume it's the same. I assume this is an NFL directive, but you have to be vaccinated. So we will continue to do Zoom. We will continue to do conference calls, and we will be able to go down on the field. From what I understand, before the game, Aaron and Christina and Tom will be able to be on the field during the game instead of up in that moat area where they were a year ago. So, but as far as the midweek stuff or going to the facility, I think if you go to the facility, now you're in a different category, and it takes testing to and from the facility to pass to go in. So you can do it, but there are more hoops to jump through. And I think for us doing the Thursday, Sunday stuff, it's just more convenient and more economical time-wise to just do Zoom and conference call anyway.
Interesting. Okay. Unfortunately, it does seem like, I mean, we've only had 2 preseason games, but it does seem like a major theme is going to be the taunting nonsense. Mm-hmm. I hope I can rely on you to kill the NFL when there's like a 15-yard penalty for nothing, like in that Colts-Panthers game last week.
Well, you're talking to the guy with the Randy Moss mooning.
Oh, you know what?
So.
Holy cow! I didn't even make that connection.
So I mean, come on. I'm just morally offended and wounded whenever. No, I get what they're trying to do, and it's kind of the in-your-face stuff. At least when we had our seminar, that's how they presented it. You can do a lot of the stuff that we've come to expect, but you can't do it in the direction of someone else. That's
what happened in the Colt Panther. Did you saw the play in the Colts Panthers?
No, I read about it. I didn't see it.
Yeah. So I mean, the guy just stood up and did one of these and looked at the guy and turned around and 15.
Now, theoretically, had he moved a quarter of a turn,
right,
it's fine. But if you're staring right into another player's face on the other team and you flex or dance or spike the ball or whatever, it's going to be a penalty. Or, have fun. It's going to be a penalty. So just...
Well, that's when that happens in the fourth... Here's what I don't like about it. I don't want to put you on the spot with the NFL, but you can't ask these players to play this game, which is all about emotion and getting your intensity at some level, and they can't do anything. I mean, I get what you're saying. They can't do it in the direction. So hopefully that, the players can grasp that quickly, and then it doesn't become an issue for the whole season.
Right. No, according to Pereira, Walt Anderson, who now is inside the league office, they don't believe this is going to be like other rule changes where you just see a ton of it early, a ton of it in the preseason, and then it magically goes away. They believe this will stick for the regular season. Now, are you going to be the one to throw the flag? You want to be the one to throw the flag and go, well, wait a minute, that guy, he turned his body. He wasn't exactly, if the game's on the line in the fourth quarter, I have a tough time believing that's going to happen much. But if it's egregious, they're going to throw the flag, and I think everybody will have to settle in and get used to it and just do whatever you want to do, but just turn away.
I think I've busted your chops about this before, but where do we stand on Joe Buck, like mentioning point spreads or covers during games? Still not doing it?
I don't think I'm allowed to. I asked.
Oh,
I think I told you. Well,
they're gonna have a sports book inside the Texans stadium.
Yeah, no, I know. But if I say it, so I think I told you this last time we did this. I at the seminar 2 years ago, I said, everybody talks about Al Michaels, or then it was Musburger, and, you cleverly say, oh, well, everybody's worried. It's a 15-point game, but this field goal's got everybody's attention. Wink, wink. And
that's all we want. That's all we ask us degenerates.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I think I could do that. But if I say, hey, this is to cover.
Right, no, I know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I can do but you know that stuff more than I do. You can do the math faster than I can. So don't act like you're sitting there in TV viewership land going, oh, I wonder what the spread is that I got on the Chiefs game. It's 8.5.
The degenerates want to be acknowledged by Joe Buck. That's what it is. Oh,
okay. Well, I'm acknowledging you here and now and forever. But I did say it one time in a game, and I got a text or a call like, yeah, don't do that again. So
from someone at Fox or someone from the NFL?
From somebody at Fox. Yeah. I don't know that anybody at the NFL.
Fox, which has gambling shows on their air, but okay.
But I said, I asked this, and he said it's okay. And then it's like, yeah, but the NFL, ultimately, to answer your question, it's the NFL. The NFL doesn't want to hear that. And do my bosses at Fox care one way or the other? Probably not, but
that's the thing. Someone at Fox got a call from the NFL.
Correct, but I got a call from Fox like, "Hey, don't be so overt about the spread. So don't say it." Okay,
so let me ask you this question, because I had Roman Reigns, a WWE superstar, on this podcast last week, and he, a week before that, had done a promo in the ring where he was saying some graphic things that he's not allowed to say because WWE tries to be PG. He compared John Cena to the missionary position. I'm not going to ask you about that. Don't worry.
Okay.
And his answer to me, so they edited the clip out of the replays and YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And I said, did you get in trouble backstage? And he said, no. He goes, what are they going to do? Are they going to fire me and not have me on SmackDown the next week? So I feel like for you, like, let's say you mentioned the point spread. They're not going to have you call the game next week. You can do what you want.
But it's not worth the call. I don't care that much. I don't. If I'm doing it just to kind of thumb my nose at it, I mean, I do work for people that can, they can fire me. I'm not Roman Reigns. I'm not, going around the ring. And I know fired. Roman. I shot a commercial with Roman for Pizza Hut. Nice guy.
Great guy.
And a former football player. I think Michigan State, maybe?
No, Georgia Tech.
Anyway.
You're not getting fired, though, just for the record.
For the point spread stuff, I don't know. I don't want to test it. I don't. Right. Because I didn't get the Jeopardy gig. So had I gotten the Jeopardy job, then it would just be nothing but the point spread over and over again, and say, hey, if the Chiefs make this field goal, they're leading by 8.5.
All right, so let me ask you this then. You said you got a call when you mentioned the point spread and you got scolded a little bit. Has there ever been anything else you've gotten scolded for over the years that you've said on the air or did on the air?
I mean, it just depends on how you define.
Don't do that again. Well, you shouldn't have said that.
I mean, I'm trying to think of an example. Like a couple of years ago when there were just holding. Remember the holding penalties that were just crazy. I mean, it's just one after the next, and I think Tom Brady tweeted something when we were doing a Thursday game in Jacksonville.
Yes.
You know, this is hard to watch. And it was. I mean, it's just there's no flow to the game. And that's the stuff that gets frustrating. I think when you're in the booth and you have to say something or you have to go, well, it didn't really look like a hold, or, you know, that's as... So it was like, yeah, just basically, Joe, shut up. And that's good. I like that. I would rather have feedback, good or bad, than nothing. That's what drives me crazy as somebody that tries to carry the banner. And it's like, you know, we just did a Super Bowl. Like, give me a morsel. Say, you know, this was good, this was bad, this was great, this was awful. But I guess ultimately they compliment you by your paycheck, and they expect you to be a big boy and not need to get patted on the back for a job well done. They expect a job well done, and you know, as I say it out loud and as I think about it, they should. And that's, so it's silly. It's babyish of me to even worry about that stuff.
Two other things before we wrap. I know you have not thought about this for 1 second, so I'm going to put you on the spot with it. But I'm asking because when you did the Cowboy-Steeler game, you guys had Peyton in the booth for that segment where he promoted his Monday Night Football alternate broadcast. If I put you in charge of ESPN, who would you have as the host there with Peyton and Eli? Who would fit in? Like, because you need someone. You can't have someone dry.
My wife. Yes. Remember the person that I didn't mention in my Hall of Fame
Still trying to get out of the hole.
Still trying to dig my way out. But when he came into the booth, we saw him at one of the events. We were talking about this, and she's like, you need a female host. You need somebody that's going to give you shit. You need a female host. And I was like, there you go. There's your girl. So who would I put in there? It's a good question, because you don't want the typical announcer guy, right?
And you need someone who's going to lay out for Peyton and it is the Peyton show. It's the Peyton show, so you got to shut up.
Right. So you're right. I haven't thought about it for 2 seconds other than my wife hosting it. So
I thought maybe there's like a young broadcaster you might be like, you know what, that guy could be, or that girl could be good in that position.
Yeah. I think it would have to be somebody young and somebody willing, and that's the hard thing. You're there with Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. Your natural instinct is to overdo it. And you're going to... So, yeah, you want to take somebody young, but I would take somebody young or really old. I would take somebody that doesn't need to be there. They want to be there. They don't need to be there. Somebody that can set them up and go get something to eat and come back. And I don't know who that would be, but I would look for somebody in the up and coming mold and say, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to be willing to not talk. And you know, then you find the right kind of older person that says that gets that and knows why they're there. So I don't know.
You just changed my mind on something, because I had said a couple of weeks ago, in thinking about it, I thought a perfect host could have been Kenny Mayne, which obviously wouldn't have worked because ESPN let him go. But now that I'm thinking about it, he'd want to get in his own material. So maybe
I just
that could be tough.
Good. I mean, good for Kenny if he were to do it, and I'm a fan of Kenny Mayne's, but I think
he's got that. Yeah,
he's going to want it too much. He's going to want to spar with these guys, and rightly so. I mean, I would have a tough time doing it because I'd want to tee them up. And I remember back in the day when Madden was starting, and my dad was one of his early partners. And I remember him coming home going, yeah, it was okay with John, but my dad tried to lead him into something, and the producer saying in his ear, John doesn't want that. John doesn't need that. Like, just say the play and stop, and let Madden go wherever Madden wants to go. So that fits here too, because you have to let Peyton and Eli take it where they want to take it. If after every play you go, hey, well, they're really having a tough time with the blitz, huh? And now Peyton and Eli have to talk about what you want to talk about and answer the question about the blitz. It's not going to work. You have to just be able to just tee them up and be quiet, or not even tee them up and just let them go.
Yeah. I think what you said is, about someone young, I think is definitely got to be the person who gets that. Last thing, and then I'll let you go. I appreciate it all the time. So I know you were on with Gary Delabate last week on Sirius XM because Howard's off for the whole summer. Talk about the best deal in sports in all media.
Yes.
So they last week on one of the Howard Stern channels last week was Sports Week, and they replayed one of your old interviews, which I had heard before, but I was listening to it a little more carefully maybe this time. And you told a fascinating story. You told about with your throat and the hair plugs and all that. And you said that an agent had told you to get the hair plugs. And you also said, this is the part I want. An agent told you to lose 20 pounds. When did you ever have 20 pounds to lose?
Oh my God. When was this? Google me in 19. I'll text you a picture.
I'm going to.
They could have had signage and billboards on my jowls at 24. And they would have. And it wasn't an agent or a producer. It was Steve Horn, who works with me as the guy that we talk about, an editorial consultant. People don't really know what that is, but it's somebody that will take something that's happening now and put it into context with, something that may have happened in the 60s or something, what works in, speed and power works in baseball, and every sport wants speed and power with their athletes. It doesn't matter what it is, just kind of it's next level thinking in a succinct way to put something. So he took me to lunch, or I took him to lunch back in like 97, 96, somewhere in there. And he's like,
long time ago.
It's a long time ago. And he said, you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you, and you could probably punch me in the face and I would be deserving, but you need to think about hair plugs and you need to lose 20 pounds. And I would consider this, as I look back on it, one of the best gifts that the guy gave me. I had already had hair plugs at that point. I said, I'm already ahead of you on that.
But when he first, what was your reaction? Like, if someone said that to me at first, I think in my head, my first reaction is, fuck you. And then maybe I say to him, oh, you really think I need that? Or you were just like, oh, yeah, definitely let me get the hair plugs and lose the 20 pounds.
Well, I had already gone through one round of hair plugs. So first of all, I was happy that he wasn't aware that I had the hair plugs. Secondly, growing up, being a fat kid and being made fun of in grade school and middle school and whatever, I was used to hearing that. That wasn't like...
Right.
Oh, you've been thin all your life, now you're fat and you need to lose 20 pounds. It was like, yeah, I know. And I do. And he's like, nobody wants to see. And I didn't like it, I'm sure. And I'm sure it hurt. But we were within, I know where we were for lunch. I immediately ordered a glass of water and a salad and said, stop the chimichanga I just ordered in Clayton, and we were really close to a Jenny Craig outpost in Clayton, Missouri. And I went to Jenny Craig either that day or the next day, and knocked off 20 pounds and tried to keep it off. And it's in the front of my mind every day that I wake up, and to the point that my wife wants to punch me in the neck.
So that was going to be my question after hearing the interview with Howard: was how did you lose the 20 pounds? Jenny Craig.
Jenny Craig, but that was endorsement? That time.
No endorsement? No endorsement?
No endorsement.
Well, come on. What's going on there?
I know. But I, as a kid, I had been to Weight Watchers. I went to a fat camp, which all these words now are so politically incorrect. I hope that your audience can handle these words.
They can handle it. I say I'm fat all the time, so they can handle it.
So I went to a camp in Massachusetts called Kingsmont that was like for heavy kids. And my dad visited my sister and me when we were up there, and we were both homesick. And my dad comes up there after either before or after doing a Patriots game and drove over to see us and took us immediately to Haagen-Dazs, where we had chocolate chip ice cream. And he came back and reportedly said to my mom, those kids are going to sue us because we were in this camp and it was, you didn't eat. And yeah, I lost weight. I was miserable and I lost weight. And so whether it's Kingsmont or Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or whatever fad diet comes along, I'm in usually. So I try every day of my life to push away and not.
I can ask
back.
you this as a fat person. When you had that little
Shut up.
when you had that little sneaky trip to Haagen-Dazs, how freaking good was it when you were eating it?
Oh my God. And I was not even a chocolate chip guy, but it was like, I'm not going to Haagen-Dazs after I've not eaten more than 400 calories a day and getting vanilla ice cream. Like, what is the deepest, darkest, richest thing you have in one of those tubs? And let me eat it and enjoy every bite. And so it was glorious. It was one of the better experiences I've ever had in life, let alone at an ice cream store.
Well, hopefully this was a good experience. I always appreciate you coming on. And
do I have to worry about James Holzhauer now?
Listen, he started it. I mean, I don't want to sound immature and teenagers, but he started it.
That's right.
So there you go.
Now you're making me mad about James Holzhauer.
Oh, we covered that like an hour ago. Well, listen. So let me ask you this. So tomorrow when I post this, can I put Joe Buck : I don't care about James Holzhauer, or would you rather not have that go on? I'll do what you want.
Oh, I don't care.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
Then there'll
be a story on SI.com tomorrow about you and James Holzhauer.
How are you going to turn that into a story? I'm
going to just post what you said. Here's Joe Buck's reaction to these classless comments.
Oh, well, that's your editorializing.
Of course.
I said I don't care, and it's one of those things, by the way, that I would never see if not for people in my life. Who can't wait to go, oh, I don't know if you saw this, but James Holzhauer is ripping you because of your... So I don't have any context. I don't know what the guy's a fan of. I have no idea.
Right. See, all these comments are what's going to be in my story tomorrow.
Oh, God, shut up.
But you're a public figure. If another public figure says something that nasty, you're going to hear about it. You can't avoid it. That's the problem. You want to avoid it, you can't. You just can't.
But I can also not let it into my psyche. So I'm not going to bed crying and sucking my thumb because James Holzhauer doesn't like me.
That's the quote I will use tomorrow in the headline.
Great.
I'm kidding. I won't do that. It'll be in the story, not in the headline. That's all.
Okay. All right. Do you write your own headlines? Are you another coward that
No, I write my own headlines.
I don't write my own headlines.
I write them.
I like to know who to blame.
I take the bullet.
Because there's always the mysterious headline person, the headline writer that goes, you know what? Yeah, that headline was misleading. I don't write the headlines. Okay.
Well, the newspaper people don't. I do know that. That's, there's editors who do that. But for me on SI, I'm sort of a control freak, so I write the headline, and you got to get people to click, so it's a problem.
Yeah, there you go. There's
an
admittance of clickbait.
I admit it all the time. I say it's a bit like, listen, so tomorrow I could have a headline that says Joe Buck does nice interview on the SI Media podcast, or I can say Joe Buck : I don't care about James Holzhauer. Now, what do you think I have to do in that situation?
The first one. It's a nice, pleasant conversation.
Okay. I'll see if I can get away with it. I got to put a little spice into it. I'll say Joe Buck reacts to James Holzhauer.
No. That's even worse.
How about Joe Buck rips James Holzhauer to shreds?
Now you're going down. The
word here's the I'll give you the clickbait headline word. You want traffic? I'll give you the word. Eviscerates. Joe Buck eviscerates James Holzhauer.
Now, but would that be semi-misleading? Would that be
it would be totally misleading.
Would that be journalistically sound?
No, absolutely not.
No. And this is SI. You're not writing for the the high school newspaper anymore.
But eviscerates is the word when you really when you need that traffic. That's the word, eviscerates.
Okay. And then and Twitter reacts, and then do a lot of cut and paste.
Yeah. Listen, one of the all-time great stories I ever did was when you did the NFL game on a Thursday night during an MLB playoff game, and people were ripping you for the MLB playoff game, and you were even calling it.
Oh, it happens all the time.
That's why you can't. That's why you can't let it into your psyche. That's it, right there.
Right. And James Holzhauer was one of the guys ripping me. I wasn't even there.
So you keep commenting, and then I can't put in the headline. You're teasing me.
I am.
All right, Joe. Be well.
If James Holzhauer or Hauer is even in this headline, I'll never speak to you again. So if you want to do another podcast someday, I leave it in your court. The ball has been hit over the net and is sitting in your court.
Joe Buck eviscerates former Jeopardy champion.
All right.
I will go easy on you. I appreciate it though. Good luck with the NFL season. 20 years with Troy. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
All right,
good to talk
take
to
you. All right. Time for the weekly Train of Thought segment. Bringing in my buddy Sal Licata, as I do every week for this segment, from SNY TV, WFAN Radio, and at Sal_Licata on Twitter, which he loves.
Oh, God, please. Just don't tweet me unless it's going to be nice or a compliment.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got 3 topics to get into with you. The first, we'll do this first because I know you're a diehard Mets fan. The Steve Cohen tweeting Wednesday morning, basically, ripping his. Would you consider it a rip? I don't even know if he was ripping. I think he was dumbfounded by how bad the offense has been. I don't know if he was ripping them.
Yeah, but it was a shot. And at first thought, look, I'm all for holding guys accountable. It's nice to hear, similar to what you had as a Yankee fan all those years with Steinbrenner. We're just finding out what Steve Cohen might be. This was his version of a missive, firing out that tweet like that. But it does go against the way the organization has been operating here this year, which is everybody's so nice and loving and they have great chemistry and they want to preach positivity. To have the owner basically get fed up because the team's getting their rear end kicked, sinking like a rock, fire out that tweet, I'm sure the players were not fond of that one.
Right. Now, the players, they need to have bigger fish to fry. I look at it this way. I just know as a Yankee fan and whatever fan I would not want my owner tweeting. Right. It's kind of weird. He's in a no-win situation in a way because when he bought the team from the Wilpons, one of the things that I think people liked about him was that he was on Twitter and engaging with fans. Fans want people to engage with them. Fans like the interaction. But if you're looking at it from a sports win-loss, what's best for the on-field performance, I would not want my owner on any team on any sport tweeting.
I think it depends at first I remember saying this is the greatest thing ever. The guy's reacting or interacting with the fans, asking what he could do to the ballpark or what he would do to make these changes. You all know how that goes though. It's never going to end well. It is a losing battle. So, and then he'll respond. Not only will he tweet, he'll respond to some fans on Twitter. Very sensitive. If I had that much money, you wouldn't be able to find me. I think I'd lose my cell phone. Forget about Twitter.
I agree. Listen, Mark Cuban tweets, but he tweets about like money and Bitcoin and all that stuff. He does tweet about the NBA, but even him, I would not want my owner fighting with people on Twitter. Now listen, fighting with people on Twitter is better than he's fighting with his own players, Steve Cohen. That's the difference. Like if Mark Cuban yells at some fan who says something nasty, that's different than, here's what it is. Owner, manager, GM, whatever. There's literally zero reason to grab your phone and call out your team on Twitter. You own the team. Go in the locker room.
Right.
That's simple. Go in the locker room and say, guys, you've sucked for 3 weeks. We still have 7 weeks left. The season's not over. Get your ass together and let's go.
End of story. Right.
Why you own the team? You have access to the players. Why are you on Twitter?
So did you see he tweeted, I think it was a week ago, right before, during the middle of the Philadelphia series where they got swept in Philadelphia, and he tweets out I think it was before game 2, after the Mets lost that game 1, they've been reeling, and he goes, just spoke with the team, had a team meeting, feel like they're ready to take off, whatever it was, something like that. And meanwhile, they get swept in Philadelphia. But that was like, okay, I just had a team meeting. Everybody feels good. We're feeling positive. And now a week later, as they continue to lose, that's what you're going to fire out? I can't understand how professional hitters can't hit.
And again, this is, listen, people listening around the country don't care about this, but this is a specific Met issue where the last owners were so bad in the Wilpons. People were happy about Steve Cohen and all this stuff. But what the bottom line is you don't want your owner involved. The owner shouldn't be tweeting about the players, and he shouldn't be in the locker. I guarantee you, when Steve Cohen walked out of the Mets locker room, people were making fun of him behind his back because, the owner comes in, he's telling you, you're the owner, stay out of this scene, spend the money, and.
But I do think that fans across the country can relate to this because whether you have an owner that would do something like that or whether you don't and would want it or do you like it. I took calls this morning on it. I I'd rip the Mets more than anybody. I thought that this was a little much from him. And Met fans were calling and saying, oh, this is great. Hold him accountable. These players should be held to the fire. Yeah, they should, but that's not the way to do it. And I love the George missives. You remember Steinbrenner with those missives with Mike and the Mad Dog? They were the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I loved when Mike and the Mad Dog would read them, but I didn't like that George was out there saying, but again, I think it, right. But see, this is what I think the comparisons are stupid because that was George's personality. It was part of his shtick in a way. You don't want Steve Cohen's shtick to be ripping players on Twitter. It's just not productive, and it's not productive at all.
No, you just hope that he gets frustrated with it to a point where he's like, what the hell? Why are we losing here? Let's go get this player and that player. We got to fix this. That's what you want as a fan.
The person who should rip the players is the manager in the locker room, not on Twitter. It doesn't make any sense to do. I mean, would you want whoever owns FAN to go on Twitter and be like, terrible show by Sal Licata today?
No, I'd be devastated. You kidding me? And that's why if you're a player, even though, and maybe I know the show sucked, but I don't need to hear or see the boss out me in public like that. I'd rather come to me and say, hey, you weren't very good today. What the hell was that about? So if I'm a player and I'm seeing this guy, my owner say that, I'm hurt and a little embarrassed.
Like I think Jim Irsay of the Colts uses Twitter to give away free tickets. Stick to that. Stick to that. All right. Topic number 2 here on Train of Thoughts. I just had Joe Buck on. I got into it with him a little bit. I am very fearful and nervous that the taunting is going to be a big theme of the NFL season and wreak havoc on games. If they throw think about this. Fourth quarter tie game. Crowd going ballistic. 2 minutes left. Guy makes a sack and he shows a little emotion. He's going to get a 15-yard penalty.
Right. So
you can't have that. You cannot have that.
Maybe Joe Buck has more, info on it. I can't wait to listen to that. But are they going to be able to distinguish clearly taunting, whether it's throat / gesture in somebody's face, dropping the ball on somebody, as opposed to a sack celebration, which should be allowed, of course.
Here's what Joe said. Joe said when they had the seminar, the Fox seminars with all the announcers, and the refs go in there and the refs tell them something. The issue is going to be, and this is what Joe said the issue was with the Colts player over the weekend against the Panthers that everyone went nuts about. They don't want players taunting face to face.
Okay.
So if that Colt running back, this is what Joe said, if the Colts running back there would have turned and then did his flex and yell, it wouldn't have been a penalty.
Okay.
They don't want the face to face.
Because it could start a physical, melee. I mean, I'm assuming that's what they don't want, right? If you're taunting, why can I celebrate and dance and taunt behind your back, but to your face I can't do it? I would think because they don't want to incite a riot. Maybe have another malice at the palace, whatever. I'm assuming that would be the case. As long as sack celebrations are okay and touchdown celebrations are okay, I could do without the taunting. I don't think the taunting is a big deal one way or another. But I'm with you. I don't want to see the games ruined by it.
I enjoy taunting. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't want the 15-yard penalty coming in. Again, if it's an obvious taunt is one thing. What that Colts running back did was nothing. But what Joe said, the problem was he was facing the guy that he was, jawing with.
The one I think you'll have an issue less than the sack, because usually that's not face to face unless you're standing over somebody. Then that would be maybe an obvious taunt. The receiver catches the ball down the field, beats a cornerback or whatever, catches it, and immediately gives one of the first down signals, drops the ball in his face. That's going to be, that happens all the time. Technically, that is taunting.
I enjoy that. You know what I enjoy? When they do the teabagging, when the guy stands over the guy's face. Give me that taunt all day long.
15-yard, 15-yard penalty, teabagging.
Yeah,
26 for the defense.
That's always a good taunt when you stand right over the guy and you just disrespect him like that.
Oh, geez.
All right.
Can you say that on this podcast?
Sure, teabagging. Yeah. Topic number 3. Last topic for Train of Thoughts this week. The NBA came out with the Christmas Day schedule. Now, listen, I'm a way, way, way bigger NFL fan than NBA, but on Christmas Day, I would watch, the Knicks are always on at 12. You watch them for a half hour before you got to do the family stuff, whatever. Then there's always a good. For me, I know the NBA wants to own Christmas Day, and they think Christmas Day is like an NBA day now, and they're going to give you, the Nets against the Lakers, KD against
game.
LeBron. There's 2 NFL games on Christmas Day.
I was just checking that to see.
I'll tell you what it is. Cleveland at Green Bay, 4:30. Colts at Cardinals, 8:15.
They can't. The NBA. I don't care who it is.
The NFL is going to kill them. They're taking Christmas. The NFL is actually taking Christmas away from the NBA.
Right. Exactly. The Grinch that's stealing Christmas from the NBA.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel. I'm with you. The Knicks and Hawks at noon. The noon game has the best shot of the day. But I look, I'm always good for a tradition like unlike any other an NBA Christmas Day parlay. I love it. It's always a loser, but I love it. But I'm not. How could you? It's Christmas Day. I don't even want the football, honestly, on there. It's too much, whether you're with in-laws or with your own. I love it, but it's too much.
See, I think that. See, they won't do it because of money and they want to get all these games in. I think what the NBA should do is start their regular season on Christmas Day. I think that would generate a lot more buzz. But you could do whatever you want. Nothing's going to matter. If you got to go head-to-head with two NFL games.
But don't you, as a sports fan, I know we work in it, but from a fan's perspective for a second, don't you think on Christmas Day, there are plenty of other days to be consuming football or basketball? No, don't you think Christmas Day should be? I mean, what about Christmas Eve? I hated growing up when there were a full slate of NFL games. However, it would fall on Christmas Eve. It ruins it. It's two things I love at once. I can't be torn. I got to go. Christmas Eve's once a year. At least football, you get 18 weeks.
Well, there's a difference there. The Christmas Eve thing happens like once every 7 years or whatever, and I don't think they've done that recently, but that's during the day. Like these games here at 4:30, 8:15, for me, those are the perfect. I'm on the couch. I'm done. Yeah. Give me those two football games. But I feel bad for the NBA because I think in the past, the NFL's only done one. I could be wrong. I think they've done one game on Christmas Day. Now they're going to do the two, and that's going to be rough for the NBA.
I'd be curious to see how blasted it gets in the ratings because you're talking about the premium, assuming everybody's healthy. It doesn't get much better than Nets Lakers in the NBA next season. So that versus the Colts, who'd you say Colts and who?
Well, that's 8:15 Colts and Cardinals. Now, it's going to depend on if. Okay, but it's going to depend on if those games mean something for those teams with the playoffs because it'll be like week 16 or whatever.
Well, even so, gambling and fantasy is probably fantasy championships. See, here's why I'm bitter. Because I am married with a child and I will be at my in-laws' house in New Jersey, forced to be in their confines as opposed to home like you, who's going to be on your couch. You could watch the games and eat your chips and leftovers, leftover shrimp and whatever it is you have on Christmas. And I'm there on the road. It's basically saying like, hey, can somebody put the friggin' game on here? There's NFL action going on.
If you haven't gotten it across to your family that Colts Cardinals is more important to them, I can't help you.
Last year was a Viking Saints last year. Meanwhile, I took it on the chin because I'm in Jersey, so I can legally place a wager, as if that matters. But I'm legally placing a wager, and it was like a kid in a candy store. This is great, and I lost a few $100 before I went to sleep on Christmas Day.
I do remember that, getting some very, 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 very violent texts from you about your losses on Christmas. Yeah, there's your Christmas. So you're spending Christmas losing all your money. Okay. Good.
One way or another, football or the NBA, they're going to get me on Christmas. I give it back on Christmas.
You got that right. I've told you to never bet the NBA. You don't listen. All right.
Correct.
Take it easy, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. All right. That wraps it up for this edition of the SI Media Podcast. My thanks to Joe Buck and to Salicata for the Train of Thought segment. If you missed any previous episodes of the SI Media Podcast, you can check those out wherever you listen to podcasts. Roman Reigns from the WWE, Chris Russo from SiriusXM were on the show last week. 2 weeks ago, Ian Eagle on the SI Media Podcast. 3 weeks ago, Brian Curtis from The Ringer. If you missed any of those interviews, dip into the archives, give them a listen. And if you can subscribe to the SI Media Podcast, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you really want to be nice, you leave a nice review on Apple. I appreciate it. All right, that wraps it up. We'll see you next week. Take care.